So welcome back to Papa's Custom Cars. Went over to Home Depot and got some fittings and all kinds of stuff. I can tell you that what I used over here, which is a compression fitting, didn't work. Kind of a killjoy of the whole thing, because on this side it got really soft and the aluminum didn't want to play well. Ordered flared fittings and all that type of thing, but it's Christmas time, so they aren't coming till probably next week. So that'll be part 3. But kind of a spoiler on this. This side worked great, no leaks, but this side not so well. So I'm going to take you along and show you the mistakes and what you shouldn't do when doing this kind of thing. So let's get to it. So first we're going to remove this line, the main line, into the tank, and that'll give us an idea of what we need fitting wise. There's a line that runs down here to the tank, and then you've got a fitting right here. I've already loosened them up a little bit. It took let's see, the little fitting takes looks like a 11/16 wrench, and the big fitting takes a 3/4. So it is already loose. I just need to finish taking it out. And we're good there. And then the same on the bottom. The bottom's a little bit trickier because it's definitely in a weird place, but I found that if you spin this, once you got the top off, it comes off. So this kind of gives us an idea of what fitting sizes we need to connect in here. The pump itself has a fitting in it right here that we can probably replace with the right thing, but let's see what we got. The whip hose came with a bunch of adapters, so all we have to do is match the adapter to this line. So I know that the bottom one we're going to need a bigger one because it looks like it's 1/2 inch already. So if I go in here with one of these and I go to the bottom, and it's not quite 1/2 inch, but I can check to see which size goes into the compressor itself. We just have to remove this fitting. It's just standard thread, and boy, look, there's nasty in there. Then we just match it to see which one fits, and that one does. We'll check the rest of them. So at least we have a fitting that'll go right into that pump. So let's set this stuff aside, and we're just going to manually, hand thread everything in for now. So let's see if this one fits. Come on this side so you guys can see a little better. And it fits right into the pump. So we've got our pump side. And like I said, I'm just going to basically leave it loose. I'm not putting it all the way in it because I've got to put sealer on it and everything. And then we come off of this with our whip hose. So our whip goes right into this one, just like so. And they've already got the sealer on the whip, which I thought was kind of nice. And with this, we could just spin it on. Whoop. And we're just kind of putting things in place for now. And what we can do, if we can't, in the meanwhile, while we can't find our fittings and everything or don't have them, we can run this directly right down into the tank, and that way we do still have a connection down there. So we're just going to snug this up. But this one will come around behind the pump like so, and it'll go over here. Well, I didn't want to go on, so let me grab a wrench and put it on. Is she the same? No, that'd be too easy. Let me grab a wrench real quick. So our hose takes a 7/8 wrench. So we're just going to put it on up here in place. And we're going to tighten it up. Because we still have to put sealer on the lines and everything, but we've got our hose in place. Like I said, we got a 4-foot hose here, so that definitely gives us the room to go around the pump and undo the kink, because they're kind of weird like that. Let me put inch down. So it's going to go around the back of the pump here. Let me just let that go and let it drop. It shall come around the pump here, just like so. And we have plenty of room to hook it up to our condenser over on the wall here. So we'll set that aside for now. Now let's see what we have to do on the other side here. Now the other side is a different size fitting. Okay, so we know that this line goes into the tank. So we're going to have to get the equivalent connector down here at the bottom. So we have this connector here, but we're going to need to go to that hose, from that hose size to this size, and that way we can hook the return hose here into the system. And if we need to, we can go to the hardware store and we can get this fitting. And that way we know we've got what we need to replace this line with those two lines. So that'll make it easy. So we're going to need a female to female to go into that tank, and then that'll put our other whip on the other side. So let's see what we got. And all of these, this is the size of the hose. So the hose that you buy, that I bought from Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the description, came with the 4 different sizes. So that took care of the pump side. So that's kind of nice. The nice thing about the other side is we're going to the whip on the other side, because it's going to go to that condenser from that side. And if worst case scenarios, we can always go hose into it until we get everything else put together. So that definitely gives us a little bit of a shortcut, and we're ready to go. We could also connect the two hoses together, so all we have to do is unhook the hoses, hook them to that condenser, and we're good to go. So we need to find this fitting first, and then we can move forward with the rest of the line. So we'll take our air hose with us, and that way we have what we need on both sides. So again, we're going to need to go from this size on the tank going up. We go from this size to our whip hose. So that gives us a good starting point and an easy way to find out what we need. So it's off to the hardware store. This line, I mic'd it, is exactly the same size as that condenser line. So if we want, we can just get 2 of these flared fittings for the other side. The issue with that is, I don't know if we have a line that big, and we do, right there. Again, this is a flared fitting, and that's not a flare. See how it doesn't fit? So this would have to be a flared side to go into those lines. So we're going to have to come up with something different. The flared is a good idea. I'll check and see if they have one of these that goes from the flared to the 1/2 inch, and then we know that we're okay, and we'll have a good seal on that end.
The next day.
Okay, I've got to do a little bit of surgery on this. I need to cut off these ends so that we can add different ends to make it work for us. Got the old trusty saw. This is going to be the easiest way to do it, I'm thinking. So let's see how. Well, probably help to put a battery on it. Now, as I was saying earlier, one of the nice things about this is these are exactly the same size. So I know this is a 1/2 inch, so I just need to pick up flare fittings or what have you to be able to hook the hose into these fittings. I've got to get my deburring tool and or a screwdriver, so I need to clean those up with a little bit of paper. But yeah, that'll give me access to the cooler. So I can use either these compression fittings, which is probably what I'm going to do, is go compression fitting to the hose fitting, and that way I've got a good seal. They do come with all these different adapters, but we'll stick with what works. So I'll take this to Home Depot, pick up a couple of these, and we'll get this thing all set for it. Also going to look to see if I've got some steel that I can make the mounts for it. For now, I'm not going to put the fan on it. I don't think I have a fan over there. I want to put a regular 120 volt fan so I don't have to mess around with going from 120 volts to 12. So let's get, I'm going to go to Home Depot now, pick up all these parts. I'm sure you guys don't need to hang around for it. But yeah, we're basically going to go from this to this. I'll need a couple of them because we also have to do the other side here. And then I've got one over there that I need to have done. So there we go. And I also need the one that runs from here on the hose into the air compressor. And I've got that fitting right here in my pocket. So I've got everything that I need. What makes this nice is this goes right into the air compressor. So I know if I get this size fitting, that I'm going to be okay. And I do have one in here in this packet that comes with it. I was able to use it on the pump itself. But they give you these four different fittings, and one of them does fit, if I remember right. Yep, not that one. Where is it? This one? Yeah, see, this one fits in there. But again, it's not a flare style fitting here, but I'll just get some pipe dope and I'll basically use these fittings and I'll be able to make those work. So again, this will be the easy way to get everything going. I do have this one in my pocket, which is exactly the same one, if I remember right. Yep, sure is. So I could easily adapt this and use it somehow, but there's no point in that. I want a good seal on all these, so we're going to negate this whole situation. But we'll be able to use this type of fitting on here. I just want to get the right connectors so that it goes from the hose to what it's supposed to. So off to Lowe's, and I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, so I got back from Home Depot. I got some compression fittings. Put a compression fitting on the one side. Didn't have much trouble. I did have to get my pipe cutter out, of course, and cut the pipe, and then clean up those ends so that they were ready for the compression fitting. I did realize that as I was cutting these, the aluminum was really soft. I'm used to using the brass and the steel, which most of that stuff is, but when it comes to the cooling on these radiators, no matter where you buy them, they are all aluminum. So the first side compression fitting went well. Cleaned it up a little bit with a file. There were some nicks and everything in it from transport and or me cutting it with the saw. So I did clean it up, got the compression fitting on there. Went on real well, didn't have any troubles at all with this side. And then put an adapter going from that compression fitting to a 1/2 inch so that I'm ready for the flex hose. And then I put a female to female on the end, along with putting some pipe dope and everything to make sure I got a good seal. And then I was ready for the whip hose. So everything seemed to go well. Everything tightened up on that side good. Went over to the other side, started doing it. And for some reason, that side decided it wanted to fight with me completely. The compression fitting, once I was putting it on, didn't want to go on straight. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard I straightened everything, as you can see, it looks a little bit crooked. It ended up bending the aluminum a little bit, so I ended up having to try it a couple times to get that compression fitting on. It seemed to tighten up, and then the minute I put on the other fittings, it came loose. So I had to take it apart, check the roundness, everything was okay. Check the compression fitting, was just having trouble after trouble after trouble. You'll notice now I've got it bent down so that it's against the table, and that way it doesn't flex like it was doing before. Ended up trying again with the compression fitting and wasn't having any luck at all. The aluminum wanted to bend, and if it didn't want to bend, then the compression fitting itself wanted to give me trouble. So about this time I tapped on the end to get it on there, and then tried tightening it again. And as I tightened it, that compression fitting kept coming up off of the aluminum, tapped it down a couple times, not putting a lot of pressure on it, but tapped it down a couple times, and it was just fighting. As you can see, it wanted to go crooked every time I put it on. So at this point, I got fed up with it and decided I'm going to go flared fittings, packed up everything, put everything back together again. Of course, you got to try it again. And there was just no way I wasn't getting that compression fitting on. And then it didn't want to come off. And the end of it was bent, so I couldn't use that compression fitting anymore. It was garbage. So I ended up straightening everything out with the screwdriver. I ended up rounding it all back out again. So put the compression fitting on again and tried one more time to get it to go on and just couldn't get it to work. So I tried putting it on that end to make sure everything was right, and it was right. So it was just a matter of the fitting not wanting to go on. So instead I worked on the other side. I've decided that I was going to use the old fittings or the old line from the compressor, and I was going to run off the bottom of the compressor to go to that 1/2 inch side. So I'm back at the compressor, and all I'm going to do right now is just loop it around until I get those flared fittings in, and that way I can flare out the condenser and make it work. So I hooked the hoses in, and what I should have known right away was the minute I tried to put the hoses on, the hose was basically all one piece, meaning that the end wasn't flexing at all, and it wanted to stay put. So I ended up having to spin the whole hose to get it to work, put pipe dope on everything, hook those two together. That way I could use my compressor in the meanwhile while I waited for those flared fittings to come. And as you'll notice, that whole hose just kinked. So I kind of had to unwind it to get it to work and started cranking it up. And the minute I started putting pressure on it, as soon as I got to 50 PSI, that entire hose came popping off the top. So I ended up scrapping those hoses and returning them. So they rate this hose at 150 pounds. That hose is not a 150-pound hose. It just popped right off the end like it was nothing. This hose is junk. This hose will be going back. Yeah, so this came right off of the hose. At 50 pounds, it popped off. This hose is cylinder itself is at 113 to 117 now. So that kind of tells you how compressed air gets hot. You know, look at that. Look at it climb. This kind of shows you how hot this thing can get. Let's go to the top. Now she's cooling down now, but there you go. And that's with so we're locked down 106 degrees. And that's after a few minutes. So that 106 degree air is going into your compressor. And the minute I cut that loose, I got water again. So it builds condensation that quick. Considering I drained the tank completely and then just refilled it and already have water in the bottom of it, that kind of tells you that underneath this thing, it's kind of gross. There is a check valve going from here or going into here because no air comes out of here, which is kind of nice. Let's see what the temperature of that is now. Yeah, see, she's still warm. She's at 94 degrees right now. This thing right here going into the tank. So your air going into the tank was 94 degrees, and that's what it's sitting here cooling off now. Definitely holding heat. You can feel it. The tank itself is cool, but that's the issue. Is you get the air in there and it starts to cool down, and that creates moisture in your tank, and that's why you want that separate system. So I'm going to have to tackle that thing, and I'm going to have to get a line that I can run from here to here, or I should say from here to the cooler, because if I can't get over 50 degrees without those hose popping, I need better hose, definitely.
So I need to flex hose like this particular one here that doesn't have any issues. I can't remember where I bought this one, but this is a very heavy duty hose. I would hard pipe it, but this moves. She's on rubber pads, and this will move, and it'll break any hard lines that I've got. So I could use some form of flex line. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of searching. In the time being, I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. If you guys have ever done this, what did you use to run from here to the wall? Did you use solid pipe, or did you use a flex line of some sort? Let's see if I can find like a steel flex line that'll hold up to 180, 200 pounds per square inch. And if I can find a flex hose that'll do that without these cheap ones, then that's what I'm going to do. So with it, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Please leave comments. I need to get your feedback on this. This is a new venture for me with that little thing. I'm probably going to have to take and have fittings put onto that, permanent fittings put onto it so that I can hook it all up. I'm definitely going to go with the 1/2 inch, but we'll kind of go from there, see what they got out there in the world, and I will get back to you next week. Have a good one. If I don't see you before then or talk to you before then, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next video.